Let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Plagemeyer. I'm the Executive Director of the National Cybersecurity Alliance, and we are here today to do a webinar, Season of Light, Season of Scams, Avoiding Gift Card Fraud. I came across this story, I think it was in ProPublica, and it's fascinating. So I'm really glad that Adam Parks and Freddie Taylor from Homeland Security Investigations have joined us today. If you don't know who we are, the National Cybersecurity Alliance, we're the StaySafeOnline.org people. We are the founders of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we're just coming off of that. Every October, we've been doing that for 21 years. We have a partnership with CISA to execute that campaign. But we do education and awareness all year round. So I recommend if you don't get our newsletter that you sign up on our website, because every time we launch a new campaign or have some new content to share, that you can turn around and share with others, whether it's gift card fraud like we're going to talk about today, or romance scams, or any topic under the sun that has to do with technology and security. We produce content every day of the week. So that's us in a nutshell. I want to introduce Freddie Taylor to you next. He's going to tell us a little bit about Homeland Security Investigations. This is an organization that maybe isn't as well known to you as something like CISA or other agencies like the FBI or the Secret Service, but they do phenomenal work. And so, Freddie, I'm going to let you take it away, and then we'll introduce Adam as well.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. As Lisa said, my name is Freddie Taylor. I am a supervisory special agent with Homeland Security Investigations. I have been a special agent with HSI for the past 30 years. We were U.S. Customs Service, Department of Treasury, prior to becoming HSI under the Department of Homeland Security. And due to time constraints, you all are lucky because I will not be utilizing any slides today. So just real quick, Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, is the primary investigative arm of all of DHS. We have approximately 6,500 to 7,000 special agents worldwide. We have 30 SAC offices domestically, which encompasses 238 field offices here in the United States. We have over 90 offices in 53 different countries globally. Our primary function is to investigate people, money, or things crossing into the United States, going out of the United States, or transiting the United States. We're responsible for that transnational criminal investigations. All we're going for is those TCOs that seeks to exploit or do harm to the United States. And once again, due to the time constraints, I will pass it to my colleague, ASAC, or Acting Deputy Special Agent in Charge, Adam Parks. And sir, it's yours.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Just a quick introduction. My name is Adam Parks. Thank you, Freddie, for the introduction of HSI. I'm actually located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so good afternoon to everybody, Central Time Zone and East. Pleased to be here. Lisa, I'm looking forward to your questions. And the great thing about what we'll discuss today is, unlike many of our investigations that are ongoing and into a specific network, this one's more of a methodology. And so I can actually speak in pretty good detail about it, which I know most people are interested in. They don't want just the high level talking points. So Lisa, ask away. I'm happy to talk a bit about it.
Yeah, the reason we set this up today is one of the companies that was victimized in this story that we're going to talk about reached out and said they were having issues with gift card fraud. And I started to do a little bit of research, and it didn't take me very long to come across the article. I think Lucas is going to try and put this in the chat, that tells the story, Adam, where you were quoted, and then you very graciously responded to me when I reached out to you. Yeah, so you had a very successful investigation into a gift card fraud scheme that was executed by Chinese organized crime rings that led to hundreds of millions of dollars being stolen from some American consumers or retailers, really. Tell us the story. It's a fascinating story. So take us back to the beginning and just tell us how this worked.
Well, thank you. So yeah, HSI got involved with organized retail crime. Coming out of the pandemic, obviously a lot of retailers were saying, look, we're seeing unprecedented levels of theft, of fraud, This is no longer people going into stores and just stealing stuff and whatever. This is organized crime and most likely transnational organized crime. So HSI put out a program called Operation Boiling Point, and that's a national initiative against organized retail crime. And under Operation Boiling Point, I and a few of my colleagues at HSI were sort of put out to go around to different retailers, national retailers, go to their headquarters, speak to them, see what the issues are and how we can get involved. So in June 2023, one of the largest retailers in the United States, I was at their headquarters, and they brought this up as a substantial concern. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. In that ProPublica article, I put the number out there as well over $1 billion, and I still stand behind that number because if we have one of our largest retailers saying hundreds of millions, then it goes to if add a couple of other retailers
Underreported.
in there, yeah, pretty quickly you get over $1 billion, and so that's a substantial impact to our nation's economy, and all that
Yep.
money is coming from American consumers. So parallel to that, one of my agents, who just happens to be in this office, is sort of our national gift card expert. And he was at a conference of the sort of the retail gift card industry, speaking about an online hacking scheme that hacked into gift cards. And a lot of the retailers there came up to him and said, "Well, do you know what's currently happening? Right now, we're just getting crushed by what appears to be Chinese organized crime, who have identified a vulnerability in gift cards." And so we both came back about the same time and said, "Man, wait till you hear this." And we said the exact same story to each other, which is kind of funny. So we then started, going to the retailers and saying, "Tell us a little bit more about this. Who are the people involved? Who are the perpetrators? What's the methodology?" And we realized it was sort of all hands on deck because we were entering the holiday season last year. So we called together a summit of retailers at our headquarters last November, the week before Thanksgiving. And we had each one of those retailers that had identified this problem to us tell us what they were experiencing. We had a few financial services companies there, some of the credit card companies, because as you know, with gift cards,
Peak holiday shopping season right then, right? So
yeah,
even for them to, it's a problem when you get folks that are in the busy retail sector to carve out time to talk about this, that's hitting them at the perfect time, right? It's perfect
exactly.
time if you're the bad guy. Yeah.
Exactly. And we needed to put something in place because it was hitting the news a lot as well. Not at the national level, but local media outlets were saying, "Hey, these individuals were arrested today, and oh, this is a big new scheme," and whatever. So in November, right before Thanksgiving last year, we started Project Red Hook. Project Red Hook specifically goes after the Chinese organized crime networks that are attacking the gift card space. And we've been doing Project Red Hook now for, what is it, 11 months? And we've had a lot of success. And I'm excited about talking a bit about that in detail.
Actually do? Like what are the criminals doing? Like we all think about somebody there's kind of some more well known, I think, gift card fraud. We think about the bad guy who calls somebody like my mom and pretends to be tech support and a tech support scam and then, says to her, "Well, you can pay me by going and getting some gift cards and telling me the numbers." Like we've heard about cases like that. We think about looking maybe advising people to look for tampered packaging. But this was a lot more sophisticated and large scale. So walk us through what the operation actually was that they were executing on.
Well, it's interesting you bring up romance scams and some of the what has been called pig butchering and some of these others, where a lot
Yep.
of times that money that's extracted through that fraud goes onto gift cards. Because of
Yep.
the education that you and many others have done, that actually started to erode as a major crime. I mean, we're still seeing it, but not at the levels that we had been seeing it before. And it seems to
Right.
be that this replaced it. And so as things kind of ebb and flow, it flowed into what we would call in-store tampering. So the way it works is first, we get Chinese nationals who come into this country, oftentimes uh, being smuggled in or coming in without the financial means to support themselves. And they get recruited on social media. So many of the people that are watching the webinar would know like WeChat. Oftentimes people would land into a community without a lot of support. They need money quickly. They go on to WeChat, very typical of like a gig economy, like, Uber, DoorDash, one of these delivery
There's a
services.
job for you. Yeah.
Yeah, they see an ad that says, "Hey, you need to go, if you go get gift cards, blank gift cards from a retailer, we'll not only pay your travel costs to go do this, but we'll pay you 3 to 5 cents per card." So what is there to lose? So they sign up. They
Curious part. So they're stealing blank gift cards. What are they doing? How is this working? That's the first thing that got my attention.
That's right. So it's not on its face nefarious. It's not that people right away are saying, okay, well, I don't want to do this because it's going to get me in trouble. You're just going in, you're taking gift cards, and there's businesses that stock and replace stock of gift cards and retailers. So, but what they do is they have a network, and from our investigations, we've identified that there are networks out there with some as many as 400 people operating every day throughout the country, operating through group chats on WeChat, receiving their instructions on where to go. This happens all throughout the United States, all 50 states. There's not a state that's immune from this. Primarily big cities, but also off the interstate in suburbia or rural US. We've also seen it across the world. So what happens is once these individuals get recruited, they get their instructions and they begin what usually is a 2 week trip. They hit as many as 10 to 15 stores a day, and they will steal, taking blank gift cards off the shelf, between 100 and 500 per retailer. So at the end of a 2 week period, it's conceivable, and we've had many enforcement results to this degree that they will have had 10 to 20,000 gift cards taken off the rack.
Wow.
Once they do that, they then take that information and they send it. They take the gift cards, the blank gift cards, and they send it to what we call our tampering hubs. Tampering hubs oftentimes are going to be places where houses have set up where they have other people part of this network, oftentimes Chinese females who are not necessarily part of the scheme because the individuals in the store are oftentimes young Chinese males. And these females are working oftentimes these relate to massage parlors, illicit massage parlors. They'll be working sort of in the back room, just going through hundreds and thousands of gift cards, taking them apart very carefully to extract the package, the card out of the package to where they could read the sensitive information like the barcode and the PIN. They record that information and they repackage it back together again
So
very
kind of
carefully.
picture for me. So you got these ladies sitting in a back room at the massage parlor. Is it hair dryers and hot glue guns and
Yes.
how are they actually doing the tampering? What's going on there?
You named it. So razor blades, hair dryers, hot glue guns, transparent packaging, some of the just some of the same things that the manufacturers would put on the cards you can get from Amazon. You could get, Target barcode things from Amazon that are branded with a retailer, other retailers. You can get all that stuff. So they will put some of this packaging back on there, and it's really easy to get. So they'll do thousands at a time. They will send that package back to those same what we call runners at a location. And then what they'll do is those runners will reverse the trip. So over the 2 weeks, if they started in, let's say, Washington State, and then they ended in San Diego working down Interstate 5, then they're going to start their journey back at Interstate 5 in San Diego and work their way back up to Washington and return all those cards at those same locations. And so then what happens is an unwitting consumer walks into the store, takes the card, says, I'm in a hurry. I need to get, I want to get a gift card for my son for his birthday or whatever. Grabs the card, walks to the cash register, puts $100 on it, doesn't think about it. In the background, what's happening is those networks, meaning the criminal organizations, they know that there's a churn to that inventory. They know that pretty quickly these cards go. They choose the cards that go the quickest, obviously. And then they have a network of balance checkers based in China who are using everything from VPNs to other IP masking countermeasures. And they'll constantly run balance checking against these cards. The second they identify one, because they have all the information, remember they took it off the card, the PIN number, the barcode, all that sensitive information that's on the card. As soon as they identify a card that has value on it, say that card that I just bought for my son, within minutes, that information is transmitted to a purchaser, another individual in the United States who uses a virtual wallet, because now you don't need to have that PVC card anymore. You can buy stuff at the point of sale with a virtual gift card. You load it into your wallet. And sometimes these individuals will have 30, 40, 50 cards in a virtual wallet, and they'll stand there at the cash register now at whatever big box retailer and get the product that's in high demand in China that they can quickly turn over. So Apple product, high value consumer brands, not to, put any of these other folks out there, but their products are like Nike, Sephora, all these things are in high demand in a growing middle class in China that wants American product. So they'll buy those products in particular using those virtual gift cards. And so if I put $100 on my gift card, even if I go a week later to go spend that, it's going to show that there's zero money left on that gift card. And then I'm going to think, did I, not, was at the point of sale incorrect?
Or I
Oftentimes,
already use it and I don't
yeah,
remember. I mean, we've all had gift
exactly,
cards float around in our wallets and our pockets and our purses for months. And so then
exactly.
I think that's the kind of like evil genius of this is because the average consumer is like, well, maybe I already used it and I don't remember.
Right.
Or or the other I think dynamic at work is you're probably not going to go back to that person. You know, if you gave a teacher, one of your kids' teachers at school, a gift card, if they find out that that card is empty and they don't think they used it, they're probably not going to come back to you and say, "Hey, guess what? That gift card didn't have anything on it." Like it's an awkward conversation, and so I think all those things kind of add up to making this more effective because you don't have consumers realizing necessarily that they've been stolen and reporting that something like this happened.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great
it's
point. Those are
yeah,
great points because it's very underreported because people,
yeah.
whether it's confusion, embarrassment that they maybe did something wrong, or embarrassment that they, if your grandmother got you the card and you're like, oh, I don't want to confront, Granny to say,
Maybe
where's my
Granny didn't
money?
quite know what she was doing at the time. Yes.
Exactly. And then there's the other thing is if I go to somebody and I steal $100 out of their pocket, that person's going to call the police and I'm going to be standing
Mhm.
there, potentially in handcuffs. But if I get my gift card and it doesn't have $100 on it, most likely I'm not calling the police.
Even if
The
you
people,
did, that what are they going to do, right? It's
exactly,
probably not going to result in a report or anything. Yeah.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So
But
there's a sort of
on,
a
on the retail side, folks, we just end up refunding the purchaser, the real purchaser. So that's where we get a big financial loss.
so the
Yeah. There are retailers that will make you whole. Yeah.
so
And
that's
then the
that's what's
retailer ends up with the loss. Yeah.
And that's what's based sort of on the whole scheme. So then once that happens, those goods that have been purchased off those cards are then shipped to China. Once they're shipped to China, that those there's a thriving kind of secondary market in China for those goods, and so oftentimes you're going to get 2 to 3 times the value of that item. So if I bought something for $100 in the United States, I could probably turn around and sell it for $300 equivalent in China. And so what that does is that money now has been cleaned. There are currency controls based on sort of the Chinese economy about what can come in and out of China. You can't move money in and out quickly. But now I've just moved $300 into China legally that now Chinese organized crime can then use for whatever other illicit purposes. So they've cleaned the money, and oftentimes they've made a lot of money off of that. So again, we're
Seeing
talking
bots,
about.
those balance checkers, are those bots that are checking those balances and doing that at scale on all those cards?
No,
We
not
think.
necessarily. So
No.
we have seen in certain other gift card related crimes, we've seen bots because of the fact that they use reCAPTCHA and a lot of other different types of things. These are oftentimes humans who just know through the recording of that barcode and PIN information, they know what the information is, and they can bypass all those security controls because we're talking about big retailers who have sort of defended against bots and now it's just that human element that now these organized crime networks have a human right there that's running those balances.
This, how did how were the first arrests made in the operation? What was the particular? I think weren't they on working along I-10 at that point? Um, how did somebody eventually notice something's wrong? Maybe at the store level, like why are people was there an employee that said, why is everybody taking all these empty gift cards? Like what's going on here? Like what sort of signals were happening that something wasn't quite right? Aside
Yeah.
from the, seeing the fraud escalate, the dollar amounts escalate.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So, at first, a lot of loss prevention and law enforcement were not necessarily in tune to this as far as this is a major crime. They see someone kind of lingering by the gift card rack. The major loss that can occur from that one little incident is probably pretty minor. And also, if you call the police and say, "Hey, this individual is tampering with cards," the police show up. They were like, "Well, they're blank cards. what's the crime? I'm
What
busy.
crime has been
There's
committed?
Yeah, there's violent crime going on. I'm just going to cut this person loose. It wasn't until we understood the vast nature of this whole scheme that then we were able to educate both retailers. Hey, you need to pay attention to this, that even though it looks like one small event in your store, that's one of many that's happening all across. And this individual, if you kick them out of your store in, Chicago, Illinois, they're going to be on the road to Peoria, or they're going to be on the road to Cleveland, and they're going to be doing it until they get stopped. So you need to take this seriously. So once we were able to get that message out and really educate a lot of folks is when uh, we started seeing the arrests roll in. And in the past year, we're at approximately 10 months. We're well over 120 arrests across the country. And, interesting about, you said the first arrest, probably one of the first major arrests that we got was in Gainesville, Florida area. And these were individuals who were running up and down Interstate 95, Interstate 75 there in Orlando. And the interesting thing about that is, just like with the methodology of the scheme, when they were encountered, they had so many of these cards that each one of those cards under Florida law was an access device, so like a credit card. And because of the face value on them, the bond amount was $88.5 million. It was the highest bond.
Wow.
It was the highest bond in that area's history that
He's
had ever
running
been
out at that point.
that
Yeah.
it ever and as you fast forward to the result of their the result of their prosecution, the one is sentenced to 20 years in state prison. The other was sentenced to 15 years in state prison. And the interesting thing is, in Florida, you have to serve 85% of your jail time. So these two individuals probably didn't really understand. Well, they understood what they were doing was wrong, but they probably didn't understand the actually strict consequences. And because of
Mhm.
that, we're now seeing kind of an effect back towards the rest of the network. Like, oh man, we can really get, not only are people
You
getting
do hard
arrested
time
left
for
and right,
this. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
people are getting arrested left and right, but you can also do hard time. And I think that's been helpful in starting to turn the tide again towards, as we continue to work Red Hook, where we expect that kind of like what they call the balloon squeeze effect, where you focus in on one thing and it pops somewhere else. We expect that some of this, like we saw it move from romance and pig butchering into tampering and draining, is now probably going to move into something else.
Lessons learned. If you're a retailer on this webinar today, what do you need to be thinking about?
Well,
Well,
Um,
definitely.
this is Greg from John Eagle. So I'm having a lot of conversations with our store detectives, and they don't know what to do when they encounter this. And we're getting some of these Chinese nationals. They're not speaking English. We're seeing them putting cards back on our shelves, and we need to come to some type of resolution as to when we're just going to go ahead and call the police, or are we going, because I don't think local police know what to do. And
right.
Adam, you had said just a minute ago about the face value of the card, because we're catching them taking them off and leaving, but police don't want to do anything, at least in some jurisdictions, and we need to know how to explain their case. And
Yeah, so what would you tell folks like Giant Eagle and other retailers that are on the call today? What advice would you have? And how have some of the retailers responded to this? What kind of additional fraud mitigation measures do they put in place that they might not have had before?
Yeah, so the first is the packaging of the gift cards. And so we've been working under Red Hook with the actual the companies that make the gift cards to identify from the tampering where the sort of the most vulnerable spots are, and to make sure that those are addressed. And so, as you can imagine, a manufacturing cycle, that's typically delayed, but those are going to be rolled out primarily before the holidays, which is nice. So we're happy with that because that's going to address a lot of that. The other thing that we've been working with retailers is actually how to change up the whole activation and redeeming process behind gift cards. So most consumers aren't going to notice when they go into a store that it's a complete different process than if they had gone in a year ago. But they will notice that a lot of the ways that the Chinese organized crime was actually attacking this whole, a card just hanging there on someone to take it out of the store, and bring it back and have it be tampered. A lot of those, what I would call sort of exploits, have been closed going into this holiday season, which is nice. And that's a direct sort of response and feedback from HSI to the networks. And then again, I go back to that education piece. you now have a lot more loss prevention looking into that gift card rack and understanding that that is a big vector of fraud for them, that it's not just necessarily some of the other, like the electronics or whatever areas of their store, that now the gift cards are a big area. Because when someone, abuses gift cards, oftentimes there's the place where they bought the gift card, there's the brand that's on the gift card. For example, what the actual gift card says, the branding.
Right.
But then there's the
That's what I heard.
financial,
Yeah.
and then there's the financial network behind the brand. So typically it might be brand X, but there's a financial network that actually does the back end processing of all that.
Right.
So, the entity that gets the most criticism when there's fraud on that is the actual place where they bought the card because they think something
Mhm.
happened there. And then there's a knock-on effect to the brand. Very rarely does the sort of the criticism and controversy go all the way down to the financial service provider behind. But they're actually the ones that oftentimes will have those records and the ability to refund and working with the retailer, et cetera. So, cleaning a lot of that up is something that we're very proud of, that Red Hook and coalition that we built with the retailers, that we're starting to roll out and be able to get a lot of things changed going into this next holiday season.
Do you have guidance or anything? I see some things popping up in the chat, some links there. Do you have guidance or recommendations for retailers that you've been sharing, or where would you send them for more information about how they can protect themselves?
Yeah, so definitely the first and foremost would be the HSI website. So it's hsi.gov. And if you scroll down to the bottom of hsi.gov, you'll see a tile that says tackling the rise of gift card fraud. When you go into that, it actually has a whole wealth of resources. There's a subtile for law enforcement, a subtitle for retailers, and they can click obviously respective to whichever they are. And learn about a whole suite of resources that we put out there for them, including like things in store. We also have things for consumers, what to look at when you see a package, to not be in a rush when you're buying a gift card in store. If you're buying it online, make sure you're not going to a spoof site. Make sure you're using a known internet search provider, or not, basically like a database like Google. So if you want to buy an Apple card, for example, you go to apple.com. You don't go to a third party site or something that you saw
Right.
on social media. There's also no real marketplace for secondhand gift cards. We see on the dark net a lot. There's a lot of gift card sort of PIN numbers and things like that for sale. And then they will go in places, people will try and sell them as secondhand and say, well, these are unwanted, that now, the retailers just need can buy them for pennies on a dollar. That's 99.9% going to be fraud, going to be stolen gift cards. Do not buy things off of secondhand gift card markets. Go directly to the retailer in store or on their website and buy the gift card is typically the best way to do that.
Hard is it to tell for a consumer to tell if the packaging's been tampered, if the card's been tampered with? Is it?
So yeah, so my advice to like my family and stuff is to say, treat it
Mhm.
like you're buying produce or meat. You're not just going to pick up the first apple you see. You're going to turn it around. You're going to look for brown spots. You're not going to buy meat that's been sitting out for, 3 weeks and is gray.
Looking green
Same
and
thing with a
fuzzy.
gift
Yeah.
card. Yeah. Same thing with a gift card. It's like produce. You gotta look at it. You gotta look at in comparison to the other ones as well. So the good news is you have a lot of, control. A control example. So you can look at, the one gift card and say, well, here's 100 others, maybe a different part of the card rack, because they're not, a lot of times there'll be multiple different spots. Like if you want, again, I'm going to use an Apple gift card. If you want an Apple gift card, there might be 3 or 4 different spots where there's Apple gift cards on that rack.
Right.
Do it a
End
different
caps
spot.
and
Just
at the
compare the two.
register and
Yeah,
yeah.
just
Oh,
compare the
yeah.
two and be like, does this look exactly the same? Are there signs of discoloration? Are there signs that maybe hot glue was used? Does it just look off? Does the coloring on the label look off? Like maybe someone used a printer to repackage, a sticker or something like that that wasn't originally on here. And a lot of times that will give you the confidence that you need to then go and buy, the product.
Okay, so if you're in our cohort of people, probably one of our most popular audiences for our content, Adam, is folks that are running training and awareness programs. That link that we've got in there, let's see, Freddie just shared that. Lucas, if you can share that to everyone, the HSI gift card theft resources. This is the kind of stuff, the kind of content that you want to put out to the employees in your organization so that they can be aware. Thank you, Lucas. They can be aware of these things as they're doing their holiday shopping. That's really, really good advice. So we're not telling you not to use gift cards. Let's be clear, right? We're telling you how to do it with confidence. How to, what advice does somebody like my mom need if she's gonna buy gift cards for the grandkids or something? Um, any other any other protections you want to talk about any other things you see merchants doing to protect themselves and to combat this that you haven't already talked
Yeah, so
about?
that's a great question. Appreciate you asking that. So I would say for the big merchants, they have the large fraud detection departments. They're already connected with law enforcement. It's the medium to small size businesses that we see getting defrauded a lot with gift cards. And the reason is because you probably remember 20, 30 years ago, gift cards came from gift certificates. If you had a mom and pop Italian restaurant that you wanted to
For
go to,
those.
they would print you out a gift certificate, and then you could come back at another time and give it to a friend or whatever, and they would get a nice Italian dinner. Now those medium and small companies still have those gift certificates, and oftentimes they'll offer them online. But a couple things that they don't have that they need to have immediately. Number one, they need to go to reCAPTCHA. That anybody that's checking balances on any of their own issued gift cards, that to even get to a balance checker that they have reCAPTCHA. The reason is because if I'm a fraudster, the time it takes to answer all those becomes almost unprofitable to do this at
Right.
scale. So, it's not 100%, but it's simple to just eliminate bots, as we brought up earlier. Second, as you number those gift cards or gift certificates, be sure not to do them sequentially. It's amazing how many times I could go right now, and I don't want to get on Google and find a bad company that's doing this or whatever, but you can find small, medium, companies that are still issuing gift certificates or gift cards in sequential numbers. So if I get a card
A lot
that's
of
one,
small
two, three,
business
four, yeah,
that would never occur to them. They would just figure, why is that a problem? That's the easy, logical thing to do. Like that's a really simple thing that you can imagine a lot of folks doing because they're not thinking like a bad guy. Yeah,
that's
but
right.
really, really good point. Okay, what else? So no
Yeah.
sequential gift certificates or gift cards because that's too easy.
So then I would
Um,
just say we recommend a minimum of 16 digits using
okay,
random number generator, and then also the use of a PIN number. If you can, because again, everything can be hacked, but then when you add an additional kind of sort of encryption technique to say, okay, well, if you have this number, you also have to have, it's like two-factor authentication. You also
exactly.
have to have this additional number. So we recommend those, that's reCAPTCHA, 16-digit non-sequential, and the use of a PIN number. If you do those three things and you're a small to medium-sized business that's issuing gift cards, you're probably going to be okay, because the hackers who can just go through Google and find a lot of different mom and pop stores, they're going to move on to the next thing because it's not profitable for them.
I'm a consumer and I get these things for the holidays. Should I throw these in a digital wallet or put them, on the merchant's site? Like you get a Starbucks card and you can load it onto your Starbucks app and then you ditch the card. Like, is that a not a bad practice as well? Because then you're also guarding against just plain old losing the card as well.
That's that. So I used those terms earlier, activation and redemption. So
Hmm.
activation is the Starbucks card is when you actually bought it in store. Redemption is when you loaded it into the wallet. So that actually extracts that value off that card. And so now it's hard for someone to get into that and
Right.
break that, because now it's sitting kind of in that mobile wallet, and you can't have it in two different mobile wallets at a time. So we do recommend that the second you get it, try and put it in a mobile wallet if you can. And if you can remember, don't put it in your junk drawer or wherever else, because likely in a year or 2 years, it may not have any value left on it, and it may not be the fault of the retailer. It may be that somehow the information was drained.
Yeah, and if you get it and it was tampered with and it is already drained and you load it in a mobile wallet, that's going to be immediately obvious too, then you can actually go back to the retailer and do something as opposed to waiting 6 months and realizing that it's been
Exactly.
drained.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Which just helps with reporting the scope of the crime. Because I do think so. So yeah, if this happens to you as a consumer, I think the advice is to go back to the retailer, right? And then the retailers are reporting it to law enforcement.
So if you look at the back of a card, a typical gift card, you'll see a phone number for customer service. That phone number will typically go to the service provider, so the underlying financial company that sort of holds that value and processes the transactions. behind that card. Because if you go to the store where you bought it, they're going to ask for the receipt, and it's probably going to be a bit of a dead end. If you go to the actual brand holder, the card that's branded, as the individual said earlier, I think from John Eagle, they oftentimes will refund you. But your first step should be to call that number on the back of the card, because that actually goes to the heart of the issue. And what I'd like to save people from doing is going to a bunch of different places and getting no, and then finally getting to the right spot after they've already spent, 24 hours on hold with, whoever else just trying to get a situation resolved. So that's the number one sort of technique that we recommend.
Okay, so if you're so that's calling. I think, are there two companies? Is it
Blackhawk and
Income
Income.
and
Yeah,
Income? Okay, so that's
that's right.
who you're actually getting routed to. Those are the companies that are moving the money around on the cards, right? That whole ecosystem.
Correct. Most
Okay,
consumers don't realize that really in the United States,
right.
it's you, all unless there's a store issued gift card, like I mentioned, like a mom and pop or whatever, or a store that specifically runs their own gift card program. Most every card that you buy in the United States is going to be on basically the back end stuff is going to be handled by one of two companies. That's either Blackhawk Network or
Hmm.
Income. And so that
Hmm.
will those phone numbers on the back of that card that I mentioned earlier will take you direct to one of those two companies.
Okay, okay. Um, Anything else happening at HSI to, it sounds like it's an ongoing operation. This was not a one and done, huh?
It is, and so we're already anticipating, because we've made a huge dent in what's going on with this fraud. But we're already anticipating that these same groups, they're not just going to sit and watch a lot of their
Yep.
profit eke away. So they're going to move into the next thing, and so the good net news is under Project Red Hook, we brought all these retailers together. We're going to use that same working group to kind of move into the whatever the next fraud scheme is. And Lucas posted a link a minute ago into our Cornerstone outreach initiative. Now, what that is as there's investigations like Red Hook and we have intelligence that we've gleaned and we want to share with the private sector, that's how it's done through Cornerstone. So there's a monthly newsletter.
Okay.
Each field office has what we call a Cornerstone special agent that is sort of equipped with going out to the private sector and making sure that they can attend meetings and whatever else. So I encourage everyone on this call to go to Cornerstone, go to that link, put your information in there. You'll get a monthly newsletter that's usually pretty good. It's from our investigations that we're seeing, so that you get it. You don't have to be one of those big box companies that has those big detection groups. You can actually get some of that information directly from HSI.
You're just educating consumers or educating employees in your organization. That's sounds like a great resource to help you to share that content with your employees as well. That are all of us are consumers, no matter where we work. Um, so we talked about bad guys not as frequently anymore using gift cards as a way to move money around when they call to try and scam my mom. And we've talked about this whole draining operation that Project Red Hook is there to attack. Um, Anything else that you're seeing in the space with gift cards? Any other creative ways the criminals are using gift cards that they shouldn't be?
Yeah, so I would just say all types of scams now, they want to move their money onto gift cards, because gift
Mhm.
cards are similar to cash, anonymous. Once you have that value on the gift card, it's very hard to track that history of those funds, and it's easy to convert into things like goods. So we see a lot of things like bomb threats. We see scammers contacting a big box store saying there's a bomb in your store, and if you don't buy $10,000 worth of gift cards and give them to an individual or leave them in this one spot, then the bomb's going to go off. It sounds kind of goofy, but we're seeing that a lot, where the scams are always ending with money being deposited on a gift card. So we always tell people, if someone is trying to get you to do something, saying that they're the IRS, saying that they're immigration, saying that your friend is trapped in jail somewhere and the only way to get him out is through a gift card, that's 100% a scam. Governments do not accept gift cards as a form of tender to pay bail or to whatever else. So do not put money on a gift card.
And as hokey as that sounds for us on this call, for the employee who takes that bomb threat call, like that's a scary thing.
That's right.
Um, yeah, it's very emotional. So you mentioned the folks you have in the Cornerstone project. I think for a lot of, especially maybe smaller organizations, they don't, we often tell people, especially when we talk about being prepared for a security incident like ransomware or something, like know in advance who your local FBI person is, who's at your local Secret Service office. So do we need to add HSI to that list? And most people don't think about, you're a small business, you're an individual citizen with a small business, and you're just kind of living your life and doing your thing, and you don't really think about like, oh, there's people from the federal government that I can like know on a name, like a first name basis. And they just kind of think of law enforcement or federal law enforcement as this nebulous entity, and don't really think of, they might think more about their local PD and not necessarily think about having a relationship with people that can help them if they're a victim of crime or victim of cybercrime. And so knowing who's in your local CISA regional office, for example, don't be afraid to reach out to those people. So I haven't looked at the link for Cornerstone, but are there phone numbers for the individual offices, or how do people go about getting in touch?
Yes. So join the Cornerstone program. You can reach out to Cornerstone and the website and say, I'd like a Cornerstone presentation at my business. I'd like to meet a HSI special agent. And we always say, it's important to get to know people before an incident occurs. I know the Secret Service and then the FBI say this as well. But it's good to have that, face and name kind of recognition before something happens, so that when you call that HSI agent and you say, hey, remember we had you out for our corporate gathering and, you did a 30-minute presentation on HSI. Well, now we've actually got something that we need your help with. And now you have that rapport that's already established. So all of our contacts, there you go, Freddie, put up our field office contacts are on there. And then again, if you want to get directly to a sort of a financial crime expert, that's going to be through our Cornerstone program, but both ways are just fine.
And I think it's important to realize these are people who love to have relationships in the community. For example, the FBI has officers that are agents that are dedicated to different schools, for example. Like it's about having a relationship with the community. So don't be afraid to reach out. They want to meet people in the private sector.
It's their job.
So yeah, exactly. But I think most of us just kind of, if we haven't had any sort of involvement with agencies like this in the past, we just kind of think, well, why would I need to know those people? Like, why is that a relationship that I should have? Well, guess what? It's because they're here to help you, not, maybe prevent something bad from happening and help you if something bad does happen. Before we open it up for questions, anything else that we haven't talked about today that you want to share?
No, I think just equipping people with resources is what's most important,
Mhm.
because we know that the fraud schemes are always going to change. But it's
Right.
having that connection to the private sector that's very important for us, because the private sector is the eyes and ears of oftentimes, what's happening with transnational organized crime. I know Freddie spoke about transnational organized crime before, banks, critical infrastructure companies, retailers, etc. You guys are all going to know what's happening likely before we know. And it's very similar to what
Right.
I said about Red Hook. That Red Hook was brought to us and we weren't aware. And then now we've been able to assist with kind of being part of the solution. So yeah, please, I know there's a lot of things in the chat, like links and stuff. Maybe, just click through some of those and do not, like Lisa, like you said, do not be embarrassed or nervous to reach out. You're more than, we love hearing from the private sector.
Think also not sort of making your own risk assessment, right? If you see something that's a little bit odd, but it doesn't seem nefarious in and of itself, like taking blank gift card. I think the benefit that you have of HSI, of people reporting different things that in and of themselves might not seem malicious, is that you've got the big picture and are able to put together, to see the whole puzzle, whereas individual entities might just be seeing one piece. So I think it's really important to report things, even if in and of themselves they don't, boy, that just seems kind of odd, not something I'm, like super concerned about it, but it was just a little off. It's kind of like we tell people to report phishing and malicious links and things like that. Like, I will tell people, even if you can't tell me what in that email is the problem, the link looks fine, the sender address looks fine. Like, I'm just not sure. Like, if your spidey senses are going off, like, I would rather that you report it and have somebody tell you it's okay than for you not to say anything and then for something bad to happen. So I can imagine that for things like this, when folks are stealing empty gift cards, it's like, the initial reaction might be, well, that seems a little odd, but it might not be something that you necessarily report.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and that's what they sort of rely on.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Lucas, do we have any questions? Let's see what's going on here in the Q&A. Um, let's see. Can the gift card company stop the tampering? Um,
Like, yeah, I
so
can
I think
take this.
I think there's been a lot of work. We talked about this a little bit because I know the retailers that have been affected by this are trying to. I mean, they're heads down trying to make the packaging as tamper resistant as possible. Um, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so there's no such thing as tamper-proof, because no
Mhm.
matter what type of countermeasures are put in place, there's somebody that's going to be able to figure out a way around it. One of the things that we've done is we've added, and I can't talk about all the countermeasures, but certain things at the point of sale, that understand sort of they'll look at that back end data and know when something is being activated or redeemed when it doesn't have that life cycle behind it, that I think is normal for the pattern. So, the companies can essentially just kill a card, and say, okay, this card. And so it may look like when you're at the terminal, you're trying to grab a card and it's not loading, and the cashier is getting frustrated, and you think, oh man, this is stupid. Well, actually, that's the retailers and the companies trying to protect you because they know that there's something wrong with that card, and they've put a back end system in place to make sure that you don't buy that. And again, there's all types of things, including physical countermeasures at that gift card rack to prevent things like going back onto the rack and all the kind of different stuff. So the
Right.
good news
Okay.
is that some of those things take, months, if not a year to roll out, because if you think we got, millions of retail locations around the country, to really change over that infrastructure take some time, but it's definitely in place. And I know that that's something HSI has been proud of being able to inform with our investigation.
Just asking, can this happen with things like a generic Visa or MasterCard gift card, or is it really only those branded
That's a great
cards,
question.
like
So
a
actually,
Walmart card, for example?
so there's two types of, to use a little bit of gift card terminology, there's two types of gift cards. There's open loop and closed loop. Open loop is going to be something like a Visa branded card that can be spent anywhere. It's almost like cash. You can, as long as they accept Visa, you can spend it anywhere that accepts Visa. That means that loop is open. You can spend it anywhere. Then there's closed loop. That's like, you mentioned this, the Starbucks card. Starbucks card is a closed loop card. And so if I'm a criminal, my number one priority is to get an open loop card, because that gives me the most flexibility out of anything to be able to get my funds then spent into whatever type of product I'm trying to offshore. So yeah, open loop cards, but the good news about open loop cards is they're typically Visa or MasterCard branded. They put a lot of time and energy into kind of counter anti-fraud because of credit card fraud. So there is some additional, sometimes when it's just through one, when it's a closed loop through one particular store, maybe you don't have that large financial service company behind you, they can be a bit risky. So I don't want to leave the impression that open loop are more dangerous or more fraud prone, but they are more sought after by criminals because of their ease of spending.
So somebody's asking if they're able to get could a scratch off hidden number be obtained by the scam? I mean, I think that's what they're doing, right? That's part of the tampering is
That's
is
right.
is being able to get to what's behind that scratch off, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then somebody else is asking, can the or just verifying gift cards can't be drained before the store sells it to a consumer. That's what gets money loaded onto it, is the fact that it got sold, and that's when it gets drained. Before that, it has no
Correct.
value, right?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. Um, so somebody is asking, let's see, if virtual gift cards can be affected as well. So my reaction to that is going to be, that's about having good cyber hygiene, right? Like not using this once you've wherever that is being stored, if it's on the account of the merchant, or if it's in your digital wallet, or however it's being stored, making sure that you've got MFA on that account, making sure you're not using the same password on that account that you use on other accounts. It's long, it's complex, it's unique, and to do that, you probably need a password manager to keep track of it, and then just watching out for phishing and things like that. Any other advice on protecting digital wallets or virtual gift cards?
Yeah, I would
Um,
just say for the any of the merchants that are issuing virtual that cards that can be loaded into a virtual wallet, make sure you add like a sort of a redundancy feature that they can't be loaded into multiple wallets. Because like we talked about the Starbucks card earlier, once it's in your wallet, I'm pretty sure Starbucks has a sort of internal control that it can't go get loaded into another wallet, that it's already been loaded, it's already been pre-redeemed, if like to use a term, as opposed to now I can put it in 10 different wallets and now 10 different people can possibly spend it. So if you're creating a card that can be loaded, I would say put that in as a control, and then it's like you said, then it's based on that actual security of that phone.
Asking, there are cybersecurity enthusiasts, what can you do to help prevent fraud? Educate your community. The resources from HSI or the National Cybersecurity Alliance. We've got things like volunteer toolkits to just educate in your community about things like this. Somebody's asking, are there any steps being taken to train local law enforcement?
Yes, yes, that's a great question too. We have, there's all types of intelligence sort of ways of putting out intelligence to law enforcement. You would know it as like an APB. We've essentially put out a lot of APBs to law enforcement on this. We also have a 24-hour sort of hotline. We have an intake mechanism to where if retailers contact law enforcement and law enforcement needs information, they can request that directly. And so all that information that's sort of law enforcement sensitive, but that information has been pushed out to law enforcement. So now they know, and retailers have it as well. They know that if a law enforcement officer shows up and is like, I don't know what to do with this, I don't know how to investigate this or what crimes to even apply, they can contact us and we can walk them through the case.
It's a lot to keep up with for
It is.
local law enforcement because we're getting this blur between traditional, more violent crime and traditional white collar crime and cyber enabled crime or digitally enabled crime, and it's getting to be a big gray area. And I think local law enforcement is learning as much as they can to
Right.
keep up because it's a gray area. There's everybody's using technology to do bad things. Um, is there a packaging standard that can be changed to provide security, or is anybody like the National Retailer, what is it, National Retail Federation, or the financial services industry, like is anybody off issuing any standards about the packaging or recommendations or guidance there?
So standards, I can't address that because I don't, that's not within our sort of law enforcement lane. But what I can tell you is that the days of cards hanging on a rack, with all the information on them just behind some cardboard that with a tear off, those days are probably coming to an end. Retailers and all these companies have a lot of solutions that they're rolling out that's essentially going to push this fraud scheme, make it redundant and make it, not even possible. So that day is coming, but again, that's one of those logistical challenges of how quickly can you transfer, a lot of machining processes and everything else to put out all new product and update point of sale terminals, but it's coming. Just like everybody now uses virtual wallets, and 2 to 3 years ago, people really weren't doing that. But now if you go to a sporting game, you're going in using a virtual wallet, and virtual tickets. It's going to be a lot like that.
Yeah, and I think they're moving more and more. They're using crypto more and more too to move money around as well.
Yep.
Yeah, there's always going to be some other method they're going to pivot to. What sites are they gaining access to or using for scanning the card balances? But he's asking about that.
So I don't want to put out any sites in particular, but there are third-party sites that will do balance checking on your behalf. And the concern about that is that a lot of the balance checking, you can think about like IP throttling. If I'm a big box retailer and I know a lot of people are checking my their balances on my site, I can find some bad threat actor IP addresses and I can throttle those or I can block them or whatever. But then if someone's going through a third-party site that masks IPs and changes everything up, it's pretty hard to deal with. So we believe, and from our investigation shows us that there are many, you could just Google them, online balance checkers that are not the store online balance checkers. And that's another vulnerability we're looking to address.
Do you want to answer this one, Adam? But the original question, I don't think we hit on what the person was trying to get at. So he's asking if the scam is to obtain the serial number that's behind the lead strip. Can you provide any insight into how they're doing that?
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I guess more detail on the tampering.
you just imagine a gift card like a credit card number, and the credit card, it has the CVV or whatever that's on the back, and the extra security that if you buy online, it asks for your CVV. You can imagine that a gift card, because it's a bearer instrument, meaning whoever holds it has that value if there's value on it. Once you have that information on the back of the gift card, which is typically protected by cardboard, by paper, by a sticker, or whatever else, once you've acquired that information, you now have the keys to that card. So the second somebody puts money on it, you technically have that information too, and you can spend it as much as they can spend it, because there's not a you don't have to then give your driver's license when you spend a gift card. It doesn't have a signature box on the back like a credit card does. So there's really no authentication feature at the point of sale.
So I was asking, have you seen any cases of Asian organized crime using barcode containing mag strip data from a compromised account?
Not necessarily in this, but I mean, we have a lot of cases around the country. I'm sure that if that's a possible fraud technique, I'm sure it's been used.
Um, should consumers assume that all gift cards are potentially tampered with? Is it that bad? Or are we just
No,
talking about looking those best practices that you talked about on how to tell what to look for?
so I would say this, after everything I just said, when my family has a
You
birthday,
still use them?
Mother's Day, whatever else, I still go get gift cards. So
Okay.
I still feel safe. It's just, again, I know it's kind of goofy, but treat it like produce. Don't buy the bruised apple. Put the bruised apple to the side. Look at what you're buying. Make sure buyer beware. Just like with anything else, the companies are doing their best, and again, we're doing our best to arrest the people that are involved in this. But you still have some level of kind of responsibility there to look and see and make sure that it's not something that you're not buying something that looks completely different than everything else.
So, okay, well, we're out of time today. Um, I want to thank you, Adam and Freddie, for being with us today. I think if you read the whole story that's been written about it in the press, it's really fascinating. But getting all this extra detail from you, Adam, as well as the advice and the resources that HSI has available and the people that are ready out there in the field to help folks. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.